believe that when we leave a place, part of it goes with us, and part of us remains. Go anywhere in the station when it is quiet and just listen. After a while, you will hear the echoes of all our conversations, every thought and word we've exchanged. Long after we are gone, our voices will linger in these walls.
Babylon 5 The Lost Tales was the last Babylon 5 content that we've gotten until the new animated feature is coming out in August. Lost Tales came out in 2007. It was a straight to DVD movie. It was meant to start a sort of like Twilight Zone esque, short, contained, like 20 to 30 minute story set in the Babylon 5 universe, which sounds really cool. And half of it's great, and half of it's just okay. I think that it's leagues above Legends of the Rangers as far as writing. As far as special effects, the ship effects are incredible. Like, this movie starts out swinging. It has a opening title sequence that got me because it has Andreas Katsoulis as Jakar giving his speech about how you leave memories in certain places. And seeing Babylon 5 station in the ships, they've never looked better. The problem is the sets inside. By this time, a lot of the show's sets had, I guess, been destroyed, which I mean makes sense. The show ended almost up to 10 years by the point that this film was made. So they had to use a lot of like fan recreations, and it's a mix of like CGI background sets and built sets, which is strange. It simultaneously looks outdated and like a fan film at the same time, like an early mid 2000s fan film, because there's a lot of really great fan films that can be made nowadays. But I think it's made with love. Like, I think that there's a lot of love and passion behind it. I think that the intentions were definitely there, so I can forgive the set being bad, because but what stinks is the ship animations are so incredible, and they've never looked better. But it's just unfortunate that when there are these discussions being had with these actors and characters that I really love, it can be distracting sometimes. So there's two stories in this thing, and the first story follows Lockley, and I was excited to see a Lockley-centric story because, I like Tracy Scoggins. I really liked her in Lois and Clark, even though her character was a bit sleazy, and I've liked her in some movies that I've seen her in. So I was excited when she joined the Babylon 5 crew in season 5. And for the parts that she showed up, I thought she was great. I feel like she didn't get as much to do as I would have liked. So it was cool to see her in a story that was centered around her character. So she calls in a priest because she's got some sort of prisoner that claims to be possessed by a demon or the devil himself. It could go either way. So she has this long conversation with this priest about faith. And Babylon 5 has explored faith before, so this isn't anything new. So they eventually go to see this guy, and this guy starts doing like exorcist stuff. Like, he starts making the room look like it's on fire. He starts like floating, going on long monologues, and it was not great. I didn't really. I found the ideas they were trying to present compelling, but the way they went about it was so over the top. Like, it felt very Exorcist 2 rather than the original Exorcist or Exorcist 3. Tracy Scoggins and the actor that played the priest are both really good. But I think, unfortunately, the low budget of the sets and, unfortunately, the possessed character, which we never... we don't know whether or not he is possessed by an alien or it's a demon or some sort of interdimensional being. That question isn't really answered, at least not that I could tell. And the thing is, the resolution is very strange and sudden. I'm not sure that they beat the demon or this entity or whatever, but I'm not sure how exactly they did it. Lockley just sort of kind of intimidates him and says something cool, and it's resolved. I'm making it sound worse than what it is, but I think it's a credit to Scoggins' ability to play that character straight. So I think that first half is just okay. Like, I think that it's got some really bad stuff, but it's got some good stuff too. But going into the other story, which I think is great, it's about President Sheridan, who is coming to Babylon 5 to visit, and he gives a couple of interviews with ISN, and you can tell that he's sort of like tired of giving these interviews. And again, it kind of suffers from the same thing where some of the indoor sets don't look good at all. Of course, when he's on the Minbari ship, it's the typical like dark room with only like a couple of pieces of furniture, and it was that way in the original show too. So it's not like they probably did it for budgetary reasons, but it was like that in the original show too. So it wasn't like they just skipped out. So that didn't bother me so much. So while coming to Babylon 5, he is met by I believe he's a nephew of Emperor Cartagia, which is the emperor that took over after the Narn and Centauri War, after the old emperor died. So Sheridan starts getting visions from Galen, sort of like in Call to Arms, and these visions pertain to Earth being attacked and giant cities being annihilated by the Centauri, and the prince is going to be the cause of this in the future. So Galen is telling him, look, you have an opportunity to make this look like an accident, because you guys are going to be taking Star Furies over to Babylon 5, and maybe your weapons go off by accident. We can make it look like an accident. You can take this kid out before he has a chance to do anything. And Sheridan has this attack of consciousness, like, do I believe that the future is set, that this kid is going to attack Earth, or is it because of this kid that Earth gets attacked because I took the kid out by accident? Is it inevitable that this kid himself will end up attacking Earth because they see Earth as the biggest threat? It's a whole thing that Sheridan has to go through mentally, and Bruce Boxleiter does a lot of this without saying much. It's all in his face, and it's clear how great he is as Sheridan. And I'm not going to say how it's resolved, because I want to encourage fans to watch it. And I think that, I mean, if you're a non-fan, I don't know if you're going to appreciate Lost Tales, but if you might be able to get something out of this last half to be like, okay, Sheridan's one of the main characters, and I like this dilemma. And somebody that's watched the show, it could go either way. Like, I've seen Sheridan's a good man, but he's done some questionable things throughout the series. And again, I'm not going to say which way it goes, but I like the resolution that it takes, because it's not just cut and dry, in my opinion. I like the way it's resolved, and I like the dilemma that Sheridan has, where he has to decide, is he going to take this kid who's at this point in time innocent? Like, does he have the chance to prevent the next Emperor Cartagia? Or does he not do anything and let history play itself out and see how it turns out? It's a really compelling story, and it's Babylon 5 at its best. So I think for Lost Tales, I think the Sheridan story is great. I think the Lockley story is just okay, and bad at times. But I think overall, Lost Tales was a return to form after a lot of the straight-to-DVD and straight-to-TV movies. But I think that I would have loved to have seen more contained stories about, like, Leda, and especially Ivanova as Ranger 1. Like, there's a lot of stories I would love to see. And maybe we'll start getting that in animated form. So I'm a bit on the fence whether or not I'm glad that Lost Tales was just the end of it for a while. because we haven't gotten anything new Babylon 5 outside of books and comic books since 2007. This year will be the first time we've gotten new content, and I mean, there's been talks of a reboot, and I'll discuss that at some point. But for Babylon 5, this was it for a while, and I think, in a way, once the new movie comes out, and whether or not we get the original reboot, I think if we do start getting new Babylon 5 stuff, it's going to be well earned because the series has had time to rest. I think that's the problem that some people are having with a lot of these really big genres, whether it be Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC. I think there needs to be a break. Maybe not a complete stop, because, I mean, obviously these companies still want to make money, but, I mean, 2023 has not been a great year for comic book or Disney, Marvel, DC films whatsoever. They're really struggling right now, and it's sad to see because I love Star Wars. I mean, I'm still enjoying the Mandalorian, and this is getting on a whole other tangent. I'm still enjoying the Mandalorian. I think season 3 was the weakest, but I didn't outright hate it like some people. I think it was still good with some serious weaknesses, but I still think the show is worthwhile. I liked Obi-Wan a lot, and there's a lot of reasons why that could be a whole other video. I think that's another one where it was mostly good with a couple of weak points that could have been made a little bit better, but I didn't think it was overall awful. I thought half of Boba Fett was great. The other half was just okay. I thought the episodes where Mando came in and stole the show was kind of weird. I feel like if they were going to do that, why not just have season 3 of Mandalorian be half Boba Fett being the main character and half Mando being the main character, because that's obviously kind of what they wanted to do. It's weird that Boba Fett was made a side character in 2 episodes of his own show. It was very strange. But I think, I don't know, I'd be curious to see what other people think if you know, once Star Wars gets done with this Thrawn story, if they should take a couple years off and maybe just do some small animated stuff. I don't think that's what they're end up doing. It sounds like I think they've got lots of plans. Whether or not they back out of those, we'll see. But for me, I always have faith. I always want good content, but at the same time, I'm glad that Babylon 5 isn't at the level of like Star Trek or Star Wars. I think that it hasn't been diluted and it still feels special, and I want it to remain special. And I think it got close to being diluted with stuff like Legends of the Rangers, and some of the other TV movies that were, while they were good, they weren't great. There were a couple of them that got close, and then Lost Tales was half great. So I think having JMS, who likely burned himself off of a 5-year show and then the spin-off and then the movies, I think him having a break and doing other shows ultimately probably ended up being the best thing. And now we've got a lot of exciting Babylon 5 news coming out this year, and I'm excited to talk about that in another video. But thanks for staying around for my tangent. Comment below, let me know what you thought of the Lost Tales, whether or not you're excited for Babylon 5's resurgence, whether or not you think that bigger franchises that are struggling right now need to take a similar break. Comment below, let me know. I'd love to hear. Thanks always for watching. Bye.
I was out there. I saw something. What was it?
What is this?
An ant.
Ant.
So much gets shipped up from Earth on commercial transports, it's hard to keep them out.
Yeah, I have just picked it up on the tip of my glove. If I put it down again, and it asks another ant, "What was that?" How would it explain? There are things in the universe billions of years older than either of our races. They are vast, timeless, and if they are aware of us at all, it is as little more than ants, and we have as much chance of communicating with them as an ant has with us. We know. We've tried. And we've learned that we can either stay out from underfoot or be stepped on.
That's it? That's all you know?
Yes. They are a mystery. And I am both terrified and reassured to know that there are still wonders in the universe, that we have not yet explained everything. Whatever they are, Miss Sakai, they walk near Sigma 957. And they must walk there